Good afternoon and welcome to our Hangout on Air, Standardized Testing, Perceptions and Resources. I'm Clara Galan, former teacher and content marketing manager here at Remind, and I'm really excited to be joined by Todd Nesloney, principal of Navasota Intermediate in Texas, and Allison Boswell, who's also a fourth grade teacher at Navasota Intermediate. So welcome to both of you. Thanks so much for joining us this afternoon.
Thanks for having us, Clara. We're excited to get to talk to you.
Yeah, me too. So today we're getting on the ground to explore what standardized assessment is like day to day for both principals and teachers, and talk about some of the difficult challenges and solutions for schools around the country. So often we hear about standardized testing from policymakers or larger organizations, but here at Remind, we want to put a spotlight on those affected by assessment on a daily basis, educators. So we want to hear their voices and help the country put itself in their shoes. So for those of you who are just tuning in today, you can comment or ask questions on Twitter with the hashtag #TeacherVoice. So hopefully we can address some of those live. So Todd and Allie, thanks again so much for joining us. Can you tell us a little bit about Navasota Intermediate and how long you've been working with the community there?
Yeah, well, I'll go ahead and lead first. I'm the principal, lead learner, and this is my and Allie's first year at the Intermediate. This is also my first year as an administrator, so learning the ropes of that. I've been in the 4th and 5th grade classroom for the last 7 years, and so I've got to see testing administration from the teacher perspective, and this year I've gotten a big different perspective change by looking at it from an entire campus and administrative level.
And then this is my first year at Navasota. It's my second year teaching. Last year I taught 3rd grade as well. Well, 3rd grade. This year is 4th grade. But I've seen what it's like for the beginners to start taking it and what they go through and the challenges that they face.
Because she says beginners because in Texas, 3rd grade is the first grade that takes their standardized exams for the state.
Yeah, great. Thanks for sharing. I know I've been following your school, Todd, on Twitter and on Facebook over the last couple of months, and it's really amazing, what you've done to transform the school. Can you tell us a little bit about what that transformation was like and what are some of the new strategies that you've implemented there?
Yeah, well, one of the first things that happened with our campus is we are a reconstituted campus, meaning that they had several years of struggle, and so we kind of started over this year. And I was the first one brought in, and then I brought in a bunch of new staff to try to change things. And one of the things we really wanted to focus on and make our #1 priority was building relationships, whether that was building relationships with the staff, the teachers, the students, and also the community at large. And so we've done a really big focus on that. One thing that I always like to say is we try to help our kids see that they're more than just a number on a page or a button in a chair, and we really work on connecting with them on that level so that they know how much we care about them regardless of the performance on some standardized exam that happens at the end of our school year.
So what are some of the kinds of standardized assessments that your students have to take each year? I know you mentioned they start in 3rd grade, but what do some of those look like?
Well, at the end of every year, starting in 3rd grade, they take different exams. In 3rd grade, they would take the math and the reading. In 4th grade, they take the math, the reading, and the writing. In 5th grade, they take the math, the reading, and the science. And then as it goes up and up, they always take math and reading, but it'll rotate through social studies or writing or science the following years. 5th grade and 8th grade are SSI years, or Student Success Initiative years, meaning if they don't pass the exams in 5th or 8th grade, they have up to 3 times to take the exam. And then if they don't pass it by the 3rd time, then a grade placement group meets to determine if they should be passed on or not. All of our exams take place in April for the first administration. And so if it's one of those retake tests, it takes place at the beginning of April. But next week actually is the big blunt of most of our exams. We also do a lot of different kind of assessment throughout the year, and I can let Allie talk a little bit about how we assess throughout the school year that's not state mandated.
So at our district, we use pretty much a test every 9 weeks. And we have those for all subjects, and it's the same across the district. So we have data for all the schools, and we can see what other 4th grade teachers are doing to test it or to teach it better than us. And I know that we also do a monthly iStation test to see how our students are growing in word analysis, comprehension, decoding, all of those things.
And we also do typical formative and informative assessments throughout the week, each week, and use a variety of methods because we don't want one kind of assessment at the end of a school year to be the end-all be-all judge of where the kids are.
Yeah, I know it's so important to have many different types of assessments, you know, having not only those standardized assessment, but also, like you mentioned, formative assessments throughout the school year, so students can see there are multiple ways that they're being evaluated. But during those standardized assessment periods, how does that affect, you know, the teaching staff and students? What kind of challenges are you seeing within your school?
Well, seeing it from the big picture standpoint that my role is, so the challenges, of course, exist. I mean, we're a 4th and a 5th grade campus. And so there are some days where our entire campus is testing. Like next Wednesday, the way the state has it laid out is our entire campus will be shut down. And the way the state has it is they have a 4-hour time test. I mean, there's just all these things. We can't talk. All the walls have to be covered. They can't do anything when they're done except read or take a nap. There's just all these little things like that that just aren't a good, conducive testing environment to make kids feel comfortable. It's good about keeping test security, but that's about it. And so we try to really focus on calming fears and things like that ahead of time. But I know that from the teacher standpoint, and Allie can speak to this too, it is incredibly boring to monitor for 4 hours and to keep 4th graders quiet for 4 hours and in their seat and not wanting to go to the bathroom 15 times just so they can move. But I mean, Allie, you can speak to kind of some of what the teacher view is.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, for 4 hours, we're not allowed to do anything. We walk around. I know myself and some of the other teachers actually have a workout planned where we count the amount that we go around the classroom. I know I walked 6 miles one day just in those 4 hours. And then for every lap, we did a certain exercise like lunges or squats while you're still watching the kids. And I mean, I love my kids to death, but staring at them for 4 hours can be a little bit much. But we try and make it a little bit better for them. I know a couple of the teachers, myself included, we have to cover up the walls, and we used like clouds and trees. I know we did an ocean in our room just to give them something to look at other than white paper and black words.
Yeah, that's so important to keep moving around and not being, you know, stagnant in one place for such a long period of time, not only for students, but I can see for teachers too. And I know that standardized testing can bring so much stress on students, especially emotionally, and also bring maybe some confusion with parents as well. What are some of the ways that you can build stronger relationships with parents, students, and also colleagues during standardized assessment times?
Well, we look at it as constantly having a conversation with the parents and the students throughout the year, where they are noticing growth in everything that they do. I think one way that you could easily lose sight of that is just by not having those conversations until the end of the year, because then the parents begin to believe that that test explains exactly where my kid is. And if my kid doesn't make this grade on that test, they aren't successful. And so we look at it as a whole year perspective. Let's look at the growth. Let's find things they're doing well. Let's continue working on certain things. And just letting them see the big picture and not getting lost in one test score. Yes, those scores matter a lot for ratings and accountability and all this other stuff that applies in, but it's just, I always say it's just a piece of the puzzle. It's not the entire puzzle.
Yeah, that's really important, I think, to tell students too, to make them realize, just like you said, they're not just a number. Students aren't standardized. They learn in so many different ways. So really making them realize that and feel that they matter and they're really important. I know you were saying that there are so many different challenges during, you know, standardized assessment period. I'm sure it also can be logistically challenging with all of the schedule changes and communicating that to both students and their parents. Are there any tools or different strategies or resources that you use during this time to make sure that everyone stays organized and in the loop?
Well, I mean, we're a Google Apps for Education district, so we create a bunch of different Google spreadsheets and things like that have scheduling on it. But otherwise, I mean, on testing days, because every single kid on our campus is part of a testing grade, it's an all hands on deck thing. We only have certified teachers do the testing. We are allowed to have instructional aides do some of the testing, but I have to sign my teaching certificate on their behalf, and so I'm not willing to sign away my certification in case an instructional aide makes a mistake. So we just have certified teachers do the testing, which requires some creative finagling, especially when we have a lot of small groups or oral testers or just a lot of specific needs that we really try to meet the kids and put them in the most successful environment that we can put them in.
That sounds like it's really helpful. Yeah, I know, especially Google Apps for Education, keeping everyone really connected. I know that Remind can also be a really great tool too to send resources directly to students and parents. Has that been also has Remind been helpful during this time or throughout the school year, and to send specific schedule changes and logistical challenges to parents?
Remind's been great in allowing us to just keep that lines of communication open. Where we can constantly send out, hey, don't forget, this is a testing day tomorrow, get some sleep tonight, or we can't have parents visit during lunch because lunch is in the room today. So it's just a quick, easy way where they can just receive a neat message that reminds them, instead of us sending a letter home and hoping the child passes the letter to their parents, we have a much more likelihood of them getting it. And now with the new chat features, there's the potential to have them responding back with any questions that they may have and getting that real-time feedback immediately.
And as one of the teachers that gets the Remind, it's also really nice whenever he's got something to say, especially like things such as Jeans Day or, hey, we're cooking you dinner, or not dinner, but lunch. And so that's really nice for us to know.
Yeah, and I'm glad that it's able to, send directly to your phone, because I know so many times, especially amidst the chaos that is standardized testing, you might not be checking your email so much. So it's nice that it goes directly to your phone. Are there any, specific types of messages that you have found that, resonate with parents more and students and colleagues?
Well, I mean, for us, during times like this, it's just a way to send little notes of encouragement. There's a lot of neat infographics and little images that we send that just talk about the whole child, and just remembering that this is just a step in the direction that we have to go. And so just sending out those reminders, I think, are good for parents, just to see those visualizations that as a school, our focus is on the whole child as well. And that even though it may seem like this entire education system is focused on these tests right now, that as a school, we are still choosing to focus on every aspect of your child.
Yeah, I think, like you said, that's really important, because it can get really easy to be, caught up in standardized tests, and making sure that you're focusing on the whole child and creating a balance of meeting their emotional needs as well. And I think motivational messages and sending those, directly to students makes a huge difference, because it's such a personalized touch that they can receive, whether it be, through announcements or through chat. Now it's so great that you can send that additional help, whether that be, a motivational message to that particular student, or just checking in with them, to make sure that they're feeling okay and they're not feeling so stressed. Or, with office hours, you can even set times that they can ask you questions, so that it's really that nice way to get in touch with them right away, immediately.
Right.
Great. So, are there any final words of advice that you can give to teachers and principals while they're preparing for these standardized testing periods at the end of the year?
Well, my thing is I've made it a game with my kids. My kids, they're not excited about it, but they're not nearly as stressed, because I tell them, for reading, it's a scavenger hunt. They have all the answers. Find them. For math, it's just a game. Play it. You like to play all these games. Like, let's do this. Let's show them what you're made of. And my kids are, I guess technically excited, but they're not worried. They're ready to go.
And I look at it as, when I was a teacher, and some of the things I tell kids now is, this is just our opportunity to prove how smart we are. And so let's show the rest of the state who's taking the exact same exam how great we've done here in this district and in this area. And just kind of lightening it that way, where they still understand that there is still some weight held to the exam, whether we like it or not, but that it's not something that's going to define every part of them. And it's a thing that as soon as that day's over, we're done and we move on. It's not anything that we stress over, or we've been very adamant here on my campus. I know, because sometimes when you get to this point, the schools make these T-shirts that advertise how you're going to kill the test, and they make these banners and these signs. And to me, I have made it a point not to do all that, because I just don't want us to celebrate an exam. when there's so many other things that we can celebrate. And so the STAR test is what our state calls it, the STAR test. The kids know that it's coming. They know that it's next week, but it's not anything that's been built up, celebrated, drilled down their throats. We're just ready to get there, get it done, and move on with our lives.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, you brought it up. The key is that these tests don't define them. So maybe it's not really about celebrating the test, but celebrating the students themselves and making them feel that they matter and they are so, have the best characteristics and they can do this and overcome these tests. So that's a really great point, I think, for so many teachers and principals that are going and preparing for these tests.
And that's something that we focused on too, is helping the kids see all the value that they hold, so that way their worth is not tied to a number on a page. So they don't feel like, if I fail this exam, I'm a failure. We constantly find ways to show them the great things that they have to offer so that they know that there's more to them.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks again. Thank you so much again for joining us, Todd and Allison. It looks like we're running out of time. But for those who are getting in touch, would like to get in touch with you via Twitter, how can they reach out to you?
Well, my Twitter handle is @BoswellAllison, and so I have that.
And you can also connect with her pet, class pet, who's on Twitter, which is @DuncanTheBunny.
Duncan the Bunny.
And then you can find me on Twitter @TechNinjaTodd.
Awesome. I love that you have your class pet on there too. That's so fun. I'm sure the kids really like to see that.
Oh, yes.
Awesome. So thanks again for tuning in this afternoon, and thanks again to Todd and Allison for joining us. If you have any questions for the team here at Remind, you can always reach out to us on Twitter. We are @RemindHQ, or on Facebook, facebook.com/RemindHQ. Be sure to check out our latest teacher stories and resources on standardized assessment on our social communities and also on our blog at blog.remind.com. And you can also receive resources on assessment sent straight to your phone from sources like Teaching Channel and Common Sense Media, simply by texting @TeachVoice, so that's @TEACHVOICE to 81010, or you can download the Remind app and search for our unique class code @TeachVoice. So I'm Clara Galan, signing off from the Remind headquarters in San Francisco, and thanks for joining us and have a wonderful afternoon. Bye, see you later, Todd.